Welcome to Thoughtful Tomes, the podcast where literature transforms into a lens for exploring the intricate dimensions of human experience, offering profound insights that not only challenge the intellect but also nurture the soul. In today's episode, we delve into Dr. Lindsay C. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents, a work of remarkable depth and compassion. This book transcends being merely a guide. It is a lifeline for those navigating the emotional legacies of their past. Dr. Gibson offers a nuanced exploration of the ways emotionally immature parenting can shape our perceptions, relationships, and sense of self, often leaving scars that are invisible but deeply felt. Her work provides not only a path to recognizing and understanding these dynamics, but also empowering tools to foster healing, growth, and resilience. Together, we'll examine its profound wisdom, uncovering strategies for cultivating healthier boundaries, enriching our emotional awareness, and ultimately embracing a future defined by authenticity, strength, and self-empowerment. Understanding the core problem. Have you ever found yourself questioning the root of your emotional struggles, those lingering feelings of unworthiness, confusion, or even guilt, especially when considering your relationship with your parents? Dr. Lindsay C. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents offers a transformative lens to understand these complexities, shining a light on the deeply ingrained patterns that often elude recognition. Emotionally immature parents are not inherently bad or malicious. Rather, their immaturity reflects an underdeveloped capacity for emotional connection and introspection. Often rooted in their own unresolved traumas or limited emotional development, these parents prioritize their needs over the emotional well-being of their children. This imbalance can manifest in various ways. Some parents may be reactive and volatile, creating a chaotic and unpredictable environment where children tread cautiously, fearing emotional outbursts. Others might exhibit emotional detachment, leaving their children feeling unseen and yearning for meaningful connection. Still, others may adopt controlling or dominating behaviors, stifling their child's autonomy and individuality in an attempt to maintain a sense of order or superiority. But this exploration goes beyond labeling or assigning blame. It invites a deeper understanding of the forces at play. Recognizing these patterns isn't about vilifying parents. It's about equipping ourselves with the insight to address their impact. This recognition is pivotal, as it allows us to trace the origins of emotional wounds and see how they shape our interactions and self-identity. It opens the door to self-awareness and change, empowering us to step out of cycles of dysfunction and into relationships defined by empathy, balance, and authenticity. Through this process, we reclaim the ability to nurture ourselves in ways we may have never experienced, laying the foundation for emotional healing and growth. The child's emotional legacy. Imagine growing up in a household where your feelings are routinely dismissed as unimportant or met with indifference, or where the unspoken rule is that your primary role as a child is to serve the emotional needs of the adults around you. What kind of messages does this send to a developing mind? Over time, these experiences might instill harmful beliefs like, my emotions are a burden, or even more deeply ingrained, my value depends on how much I can appease or serve others. These beliefs don't just evaporate as we grow older. They form the undercurrent of how we perceive ourselves, engage with others, and navigate the world. Dr. Gibson offers profound insights into the emotional survival strategies children develop in these environments. To maintain a sense of safety and avoid conflict, many learn to suppress their needs, adopting people-pleasing behaviors that prioritize others at their own expense. For others, emotional numbing becomes a defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from the sting of rejection, criticism, or unmet expectations. These adaptive strategies may have shielded them from pain as children, but as adults, these same patterns often create barriers to meaningful and fulfilling connections. People-pleasing can lead to chronic overextension and resentment, while emotional suppression might leave one feeling disconnected and isolated, unable to fully engage with life or relationships. What sets Dr. Gibson's work apart is her ability to validate the unspoken struggles of those who grew up with emotionally immature parents. Many of us carry an unacknowledged weight, the confusion of feeling inexplicably drained by family interactions, or the guilt of questioning why certain relationships leave us emotionally raw. This book not only illuminates the origins of these feelings, but also provides a roadmap for understanding and healing. Through this process, readers are empowered to recognize the roots of their emotional patterns and begin to dismantle the inherited legacy of dysfunction. Dr. Gibson's insights offer more than understanding. They offer liberation, the opportunity to create a life where relationships are built on mutual respect, authenticity, and emotional wholeness. 4 types of emotionally immature parents. Dr. Gibson's categorization of emotionally immature parents into 4 types, emotional explosives, passive parents, overly involved parents, and rejecting parents, provides a lens through which we can begin to untangle the often complex and painful dynamics of our childhoods. Each type reflects a different way in which parents may fail to meet the emotional needs of their children, leaving lasting imprints that shape identity, relationships, and self-perception in adulthood. 1. Emotional explosives are the volatile and unpredictable figures in a household, prone to sudden outbursts of anger or frustration. For a child, this environment can feel like navigating a minefield where a single misstep triggers chaos. Living in this constant state of hypervigilance teaches children to suppress their own needs and emotions, prioritizing the avoidance of conflict above all else. Over time, this survival mechanism can manifest as chronic anxiety or an ingrained hesitance to express oneself authentically, fearing rejection or reprisal. 2. Passive parents, in contrast, are not outwardly volatile, but create an emotional void through their absence. Their withdrawal may stem from personal struggles such as depression, trauma, or apathy. Children in these homes often become caregivers themselves, stepping into adult roles far too early. This parentification forces them to neglect their own emotional development as they shoulder burdens far beyond their years. The result is an adult who may excel in responsibility but struggles with emotional intimacy or a sense of personal identity. 3. Overly involved parents, while appearing attentive and engaged, often use their involvement as a means of control. They micromanage their children's lives, masking their overreach with phrases like, "I just want what's best for you." This dynamic stifles a child's autonomy, leaving them ill-equipped to trust their own instincts or navigate life independently. The constant shadow of parental influence can lead to feelings of inadequacy and a persistent fear of failure as an adult, as every decision becomes fraught with self-doubt. For rejecting parents, perhaps the most overtly damaging, actively disengage from their children, emotionally, physically, or both. Their indifference sends a resounding message: "You are unworthy of my love or attention." This rejection can erode a child's sense of self-worth, planting deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and abandonment. These wounds often carry forward into adulthood, coloring relationships and fostering fears of intimacy and vulnerability. Listening to these descriptions, you might find echoes of your own experiences. Perhaps your parents embodied one of these types, or maybe their behaviors were a blend of several. The pain of recognizing these patterns is undeniable, but it also marks the beginning of empowerment. Understanding the limitations of your parents is not about blame. It's about clarity. It's about seeing the ways in which their emotional immaturity shaped your upbringing and acknowledging the impact it has had on your life. But most importantly, Dr. Gibson's work offers hope. These patterns, while formative, do not define your future. The process of healing involves reclaiming your emotional space, breaking free from the coping mechanisms that once served as armor but now act as chains. By shining a compassionate light on these dynamics, you can rewrite your story, embracing a path toward emotional autonomy, healthier relationships, and a fuller, freer sense of self. Breaking free. One of the most profound takeaways from Dr. Gin's work is the empowering concept of emotional detachment, a tool not rooted in rejection or estrangement, but in self-preservation and personal growth. Emotional detachment allows us to carve out space to nurture our own well-being, independent of the behaviors, expectations, or unresolved issues of our parents. This shift isn't about abandoning the relationship. Rather, it's about redefining it on terms that prioritize your emotional health, allowing you to engage with your parents without losing yourself in the process. Central to this journey is the challenge of relinquishing deeply ingrained, often unconscious expectations. For many adult children of emotionally immature parents, there exists a persistent yearning, a hope that one day, their parents will transform into the nurturing, empathetic figures they always wished for. Yet, as Dr. Gibson points out, this hope can be both an anchor and a trap, keeping you tethered to cycles of disappointment and hurt. Recognizing and accepting the limitations of emotionally immature parents isn't an act of giving up, it's an act of liberation. It means stepping off the treadmill of unmet expectations and reclaiming your energy to invest in your own emotional fulfillment. A transformative step in this process is cultivating what Dr. Gibson calls your inner nurturer. This involves developing an internal voice of compassion, reassurance, and guidance. A voice that becomes the parent you needed as a child but didn't have. Through this practice, you begin to provide yourself with the validation, encouragement, and emotional safety that were absent in your upbringing. The inner nurturer becomes a steadfast ally, helping you honor your emotions, establish boundaries with confidence, and navigate life with self-respect rather than guilt or obligation. Breaking free is not about erasing the past or severing familial ties. It's about integrating your history into a narrative of strength and resilience. It's a deeply personal act of self-love, acknowledging the pain of unmet needs while choosing to meet those needs in new, healthier ways. By letting go of what cannot be changed and embracing your capacity for self-compassion, you step into a future where your worth is no longer defined by your parents' limitations, but by your own potential for growth and fulfillment. This journey is not just an act of healing, it is an act of reclaiming your life on your terms. The road to healing. Healing from the wounds inflicted by emotionally immature parenting is not a linear process, but an intricate journey, rich with challenges and moments of self-discovery. It's not about erasing the pain of the past or achieving a perfect state of being, but about committing to progress, one step at a time. Dr. Gibson reminds us that healing is a deeply personal evolution, a practice of meeting yourself with compassion, understanding, and patience as you navigate the complexities of your emotional world. This journey is not about arriving at an endpoint, but about learning to embrace growth, setbacks, and resilience as interconnected parts of a transformative process. At its heart, healing begins with self-awareness, the courage to examine old wounds, recognize their impact, and acknowledge the patterns they have woven into your life. Dr. Gibson introduces practical tools to help navigate this terrain, including exercises aimed at identifying emotional triggers. These triggers, often subtle yet powerful, can stir echoes of the past, surfacing feelings of hurt, inadequacy, or anger. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by these reactions, we are encouraged to cultivate mindfulness and reflection. By pausing and engaging with these moments intentionally, we start to reclaim control over our emotional responses, recognizing them not as weaknesses, but as opportunities to rewrite our inner narrative. Establishing boundaries is another cornerstone of this journey. For those raised by emotionally immature parents, boundaries may have been absent, ignored, or actively discouraged, leaving emotional needs unmet and personal autonomy compromised. Dr. Gibson reframes boundaries as acts of self-empowerment, ways to honor your emotional integrity and create safe spaces where you can thrive. Learning to set and uphold boundaries isn't about building walls, but about creating healthy frameworks for relationships that respect your limits. It's a declaration of self-worth, an assertion that your emotional well-being is a priority, deserving of protection and care. Moreover, healing is amplified through the relationships we foster as we grow. Dr. Gibson underscores the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who embody emotional maturity, empathy, and mutual respect. These relationships provide the fertile ground necessary for recovery, offering a balance of support and accountability that helps us move forward. Seeking out connections built on reciprocity and trust not only nurtures our healing, but also reshapes our understanding of intimacy, demonstrating what is possible in relationships that honor authenticity and emotional safety. Ultimately, the road to healing is about transformation, turning the pain of unmet needs and childhood struggles into a source of strength and insight. It's about reclaiming your narrative, not by ignoring the shadows of the past, but by learning to navigate them with compassion and wisdom. Each boundary set, each moment of self-awareness, and each healthy relationship cultivated is a step toward emotional freedom. Dr. Gibson's work invites us to embrace the messiness of healing as a profound act of self-love, a commitment to living a life not dictated by old wounds, but inspired by the possibilities of growth, resilience, and self-discovery. A compassionate perspective. As we approach the close of this discussion, let's delve into one of the most transformative pillars of emotional healing, compassion. Dr. Gibson emphasizes that compassion is not merely a kind gesture extended to others. It is a lifeline for our own emotional well-being. The profound healing power of compassion lies in its duality, the ability to offer it both to ourselves and, when appropriate, to the parents whose emotional immaturity has deeply impacted our lives. Importantly, this does not mean absolving or excusing their harmful actions, but rather choosing to view them through a lens that acknowledges the complex human experiences that shape their behavior. Emotionally immature parents are often the product of their own unhealed wounds, unresolved trauma, and unmet needs. By recognizing this, we begin to understand that their shortcomings are not necessarily rooted in malice, but in their limited emotional capacity. This perspective requires nuance. It is not about condoning the pain they caused, but about contextualizing it. It allows us to move beyond the binary notions of blame and victimhood, and instead see our parents as flawed individuals navigating their own struggles. This understanding doesn't erase the harm done, but opens the door to reframing our relationship with the past, making room for empathy where anger and resentment once resided. Compassion in this context is not synonymous with passive acceptance. It does not call for enduring toxic relationships or exposing ourselves to repeated harm. Instead, it is a practice of emotional liberation. By releasing the burden of animosity, we free ourselves from the corrosive effects of long-held resentment. This act of letting go is not about them. It is about reclaiming our emotional space and sovereignty. It's about prioritizing our healing by unburdening ourselves from the weight of emotions that no longer serve us. This compassionate perspective also fosters a deeper connection to ourselves. It reminds us that we are not defined by the failures of our parents or by the pain we endured. Instead, we have the power to reshape our narratives, crafting a story that emphasizes resilience and growth. By extending compassion to our parents, we simultaneously extend it to the parts of ourselves that were shaped by their immaturity, fostering a sense of wholeness that can only come from self-acceptance. Moreover, this shift in perspective holds transformative potential for the generations to come. When we choose compassion, we interrupt cycles of emotional immaturity, ensuring that future relationships, whether with our children, partners, or friends, are healthier, more empathetic, and rooted in mutual respect. In this way, compassion becomes not just an act of healing, but a legacy of emotional strength and wisdom. Ultimately, compassion is an act of courage. It requires us to face the hurt of the past and transform it into a tool for growth. It empowers us to see beyond our pain and recognize the humanity in those who caused it, not for their sake, but for our own. In doing so, we find freedom. Freedom from the chains of resentment, from the narratives of inadequacy, and from the limitations imposed by our wounds. This liberation is the essence of healing, and it paves the way for a future defined not by the shadows of the past, but by the light of new possibilities. Closing thoughts. Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents is far more than just a book. It's a profound journey into the depths of our emotional being and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Dr. Lindsay Gibson offers not only insight, but a lifeline, guiding readers to confront the wounds inflicted by emotionally immature parents with clarity, courage, and compassion. This work is a beacon for anyone who has struggled under the weight of unresolved childhood pain, reminding us that while the scars of the past may shape us, they do not have to define our future. What makes this book transformative is its dual focus. It doesn't shy away from the pain and complexity of growing up with parents who lacked emotional depth, yet it also radiates hope. It provides the tools to untangle the patterns of dysfunction we may have unconsciously inherited, empowering us to step out of the shadows of our upbringing and into the light of self-discovery. For many, this book serves as the missing piece in their healing journey, a space where they feel seen, validated, and equipped to move forward. Dr. Gibson's approach reminds us that healing is not about erasing the past, but about reframing it. It's about understanding how our parents' limitations affected us, recognizing the impact of those experiences, and consciously choosing a path that prioritizes emotional maturity and self-compassion. The process of recovery, as outlined in the book, is not linear, nor is it without its challenges. But with every step we take, we reclaim parts of ourselves that were lost or overshadowed by pain. We learn to let go of burdens that were never ours to carry, and replace them with a deeper understanding of who we are and who we wish to become. For those who have spent years feeling trapped in the emotional cycles of their upbringing, this book offers more than just validation. It provides a vision of freedom. It serves as both a mirror, reflecting the truths of our past with clarity, and a window, opening to the endless possibilities of a life lived on our terms. It's a reminder that healing is not just possible, it's a transformative act of courage and love for oneself. As we close, I invite you to reflect on what this journey might mean for you. Healing is deeply personal, but it is never solitary. By sharing your story, seeking support, or simply allowing yourself to explore this path, you join countless others striving for the same freedom and emotional clarity. If today's episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear these words. Together, we can create a community of growth, understanding, and resilience. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Remember, the path to healing is not about perfection, but progress. So keep reading, keep reflecting, and most importantly, keep growing. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.